Hi, everyone. My name is Carrie Mocyk. I'm one of the instructional designers on campus, for those that don't know me. Today's session is going to be very different than other sessions that we've done in the past. This stemmed from me attending a SUNY training where it was anyone that had was teaching for SUNY for different reasons that it was kind of like a comparing of notes of like who knew what about the system. And what I learned through that is that just because we use the system doesn't mean that we necessarily know all of the functions of the system. And that's perfect example would be in Excel. A lot of people wouldn't know all of the different features in Excel. And the same thing with Brightspace. So what I wanted to kind of do, and I actually don't mind that this session is a smaller group, because if there's something that you would like to know more information about it, I'm happy to take a closer look. This is not necessarily going to be a how-to session. It's going to be, this is over here, this is over here. And if there's specific instructions that you're looking for, if we have time, we'll go through it. If not, then I do have the ability to send you something to have you fill out just to ask for those instructions if you want to know more about some of the things that I'm showing you. All right, because there's a lot and I have no idea how far we're going to make it, but we're just going to kind of go through and see what we come up with. So I hope you enjoy this setup. Okay, let me just get to where I'm going. Come on. Okay, as a starting point, who currently, well, you don't need to answer, but Quick Eval. Have you ever explored Quick Eval in any capacity? Um, Quick Eval has two different options. From the home screen in SUNY Oswego, you have the you are capable of going to Quick Eval and access all of your submissions or activities that need to be graded for all of your classes on this one page, if you would like to do that. You can view it by submissions, by the students' names and what the activity is here. You can view it by activities. You can also filter it by course. So let's say you teach a couple sections of one particular course. You could filter by that so that you could see all of the submissions for the one assignment on this one page. The only downfall to Quick Eval that is very important that you remember is that Quick Eval is only good up until the due date. It's not going to show new submissions when a due date has passed. So just keep that in mind. But again, so if you're it would be new submissions. So like you allow somebody to submit after the due date, but anything up to the due date, no matter when you grade it, would be listed here. And then you have the ability, so it tells me that there's 4 new posts in here. And it takes me right to the grading screen. I can go back to Quick Eval up there. If it's a situation where you are saving everything as draft because you want to publish everything all at once to the students, you do have the ability to publish all from this screen. So it is kind of interesting. This is from the SUNY Oswego page. You also have one that's inside of your course, and that would be just for your specific course. But just know that there's 2 versions of it. All right, let's see. Did I catch everything there? Oh, you also have the ability to snooze updates. Let's see. More actions. Dismiss until. Okay, so this would be an instance where maybe it's something where there's a long window of time that they are submitting over a course of the month or something like that, and you just don't want to look at it yet. You can dismiss it. You can snooze it for a certain amount of time. So I guess the only thing that quick eval is can be very helpful when you're bulk grading. The only big thing to remember is that after the due date, new submissions will not show up here. You'll have to go back into the course and grade from there. Does anyone have any questions about quick eval? Okay. All right. So then the next thing I thought of is, the good old grade book. And different things that we could look at in there. And I don't have a lot of grades in here, but we'll go with what we can. The first thing is switching over to spreadsheet view. This is really nice because it gives you the boxes to be able to enter grades right there. And we'll just switch back to standard view. If you have a situation where maybe you entered a grade in and you changed the grade, or there's any question about grades, you can actually go over here and view an event log. Oh shoot, it's probably not going to show up. The event log is showing, let's see, I guess I can stop. Where's the event log? So the event log shows what's happened on this for the student, any changes that have been made. So like, let's say you had given 80% and you changed something with your grading and it's supposed to be 90%, any of those changes would end up being here. I do see a question.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. Do you know, is there a way in Gradebook, and thank you, I'd never even clicked on that spreadsheet view before. Is there a way to to hide a column while you're working on it? Um,
Yes.
okay.
Yep. And I can show you that for sure.
Okay, that would be great.
Let's see. Uh-oh, okay. User list. Is that the right one? Okay, yeah. Sorry about that. All right, so spreadsheet view, standard view. Let me look at one more thing. Ha, spreadsheet view. Oh, that's funny. Oh, I know. Okay. So something else that might be interesting. So let's say participation. Let's say that's something that you wanted to add any type of feedback. I'll use this column here, but if you wanted to add any type of feedback to something that the students have not submitted, but you have a grade for, you can go in here and enter grades. And there's room for feedback. So this, all I can think of is participation. At the end of the semester, you give them an 85 and you want to explain why they only got an 85. You could actually add some feedback in here by going to that section right there. And I'll show you again where that was, since I said that kind of confusing. If you click on the chevron next to the column name and enter grades, you can add feedback in there. All right, so this would be a good instance if there isn't a submission. Same thing, you can look at the event log. Let's say you had a problem with the grade book and grades got changed around a little bit. You could possibly get some answers in here. Okay, so you'll also know I have this participation. It's not titled properly, but I do have, there's a pass fail, there's a done not done, It's 100% or not 100%, but there is an option to do that. This would be a good instance where if it's a rough draft or something where they're not getting graded on the initial rough draft, but they're eventually going to get graded, but you want a record, you want a record of the submissions, you could do a done or not done uh, column in the grade book. And I'll show you how to not have it count towards the final grade if that's what you're trying to accomplish. Okay, so anytime we're working with a grade book and we're going to change anything around, try to do all of that stuff before the semester starts. Definitely can run into issues if your grade book is not set up properly. In instances where the less ideal situation where you do have to develop curriculum throughout the semester, try to get the shells of your assessments created and get that linked into the grade book so that at least the columns are there and the students know what to expect. But no matter what, if the grade book is being used, make sure you export it. It doesn't matter which version you put it in, as long as it's exported so that it could be retrieved if need be. And when I mean that, it could be an Excel file or I don't remember what the other one is, but either one is fine. So in manage grades, there's a few things to look at here. The first thing is at the beginning of the semester, using the setup wizard. The setup wizard walks you through the different steps of creating a grade book, whether it's going to be a weighted grade book, which this one here is weighted. It tells you over this last column that it is. If you ever wanted to know for sure, you could just click on the setup wizard and it will tell you how it's set up. And then the other one is on this page. This is a points grade book. And again, you could confirm if you're not seeing it for whatever reason, you could confirm in the setup wizard what you have set up for your grade book. Going back to the weighted grade book, just because that's the most confusing, or just the learning curve to it, I should say. Let's see. So this is, okay. When we're looking at managed grades, there's several things that we're looking at. The big thing to know about managed grades that I do think takes a little bit of using Brightspace to kind of wrap your head around is managed grades is all about the gradebook columns. Has nothing to do with the actual assignment that's created someplace else, but it does have to do with the gradebook columns. And this association column is telling us that there is a discussion that is tied to this gradebook column. So somewhere along the line, you went to course tools and to discussions, you created a discussion, it was called this, and you added it to the gradebook. And that's how this column got generated. Now these categories, these are in the light blue. There's a lot of different things you can do with categories. So in this weighted grade book, I've got participation. I do not want that to count towards my final calculated grade. All right, maybe you would, but maybe you won't. So in this case, my participation, my category is set to 0. So anything that I put in here in this category of participation, it is not going to count towards the final grade book or final grade in the course. And the way that I did that was I edit the category and my weight is set to 0. All right. So that took us a while to figure out the best way to go about that. There's a similar setup for a points-based version, but there is a way to create a category and put all of your stuff that you want to document and keep track of, but not necessarily count towards the final grade. We also have the ability to Let's see. If we go ahead and edit another category, we do have the ability to drop the lowest scores. So let's say you want to drop the 2 lowest scores. You could click on this and drop the 2 lowest ones. I wouldn't do this until more towards the end of the semester, just so that it doesn't mess up the grade calculations if all of them haven't been submitted, but just know that this is an option. And this is at the category level. So like if there was 10 discussions and you only wanted to count 8 of them, you could edit the category and it would drop those lowest to 1, 2, 3, doesn't matter, whatever you want. You also have the ability to reorganize everything in here. So if you clicked on more actions, reorder, you can change the order and how these are all presented. And there's different schools of thoughts on, what they're going to see first versus what they're going to, you know, what you'll be interacting with most. Maybe you want your stuff that, weekly participations, that you want that front and center. But there are options like that to reorder however it works best for your course. And let's see. What was your question again, Lisa? I'm sorry. I know it's in the screen, but I can't remember.
It was how to like, so let's say I'm entering grades for either entering grades completely or entering grades in a column. Can I hide that column while I'm working on it? So that, for example, like I'm taking the entire data grade, but I want everyone to see their grades at the same time and not some to get them and some not to get them as I'm continually saving.
Okay, so there's probably a safer way to go about that. The answer to your question is yes, you can. But the other thing that I would like to mention is that while you're grading, you can save them as draft. And then at the very end, you can super check all of like this button up here on the different screen. But if you had all of the student submissions, you went to course tools, quizzes, and you're grading, I can show you. This is a super check. And across the top, it actually says, do you want to, let's show, we can take a look. Okay, there it is. So up top here, you could super check this and then publish, or you can publish them all at the same time. So when you're grading, you would just keep it in draft. And then when you're ready, you would super check everybody and then publish. To answer your question, you can hide a gradebook column, but that is really important to know, is that you are only hiding a gradebook column. Many times we see these things are hidden here and they think that they're hiding the assignment. You're not hiding the assignment, you're actually just hiding the column itself. And to do that, you can hide from users, but that really isn't, it's dangerous. We've seen it plenty of times before where forget that it's in here. So the better route to go would be to keep everything in draft until you're ready to publish.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Looking at this grade book, this is a points-based one. You'll notice a couple things here. So this category, if you hover over top of this, it says excluded from the final grade calculation. So that's how I was able to, in a points-based one, I edit the category, and then I excluded from the gradebook calculation. So that would be the instance of trying to keep track of some things. Maybe course introductions would be an example. So anything in this category, see how it's indented in here? So it's telling me it's part of the class participation category, is going to be worth 0 points. So these activities here doesn't matter. I could have it, 10 points, 100 points, doesn't matter, because as long as it's in this category, it's going to equal to 0. Now this one, I've got an introduce yourself. I'm going to count it as a bonus. That's what the star is. And if I go in here to edit and I scroll down, I can make this a bonus. So this is letting us know that this gradebook column is hidden, not the actual assignment, just the gradebook column. All right, so a little bit of information about the gradebook as far as like trying to make any changes to it. If this association column is filled in, the gradebook is smart enough to say, you cannot delete this column. So one of the things that there's multiple steps that go into deleting a column. And first, we always make sure if the gradebook is active, you back everything up. But then the next thing is if you want to get rid of something like this, going up to course tools to the source of where you created it. And when you go to edit, you pull it out of the gradebook just by clicking on this and reset to ungraded. And what that will do is it creates that empty space where the association has been removed. It's unlinking it from the assignment, and that allows you to delete that column. So let's see. Almost through grades. All right, so now if something like this with the association column not filled in, I could go to more actions, delete, and it would allow me to delete it. But it's not going to allow you to delete it until you go back to the source and unlink it. All right, so something that I've been playing around a lot with is the recognizing that these are the gradebook columns. You could, in theory, change all of these names to different things. I'm telling you right now to not do that. It adds a level of confusion for the students. If you want to change the name, you would want to go back up to course tools and to the assessment and change it from there. The reason I'm saying that is because if you change the name here, it does not flow up to the source. The same thing with the points. They allow you to put points into this area here. But if it's tied to an assignment, the gradebook column is going to have one set of points, but the assignment itself is going to have whatever you originally gave it. So all changes should be made up in course tools to the different assessments so that the information flows properly down to the gradebook. So it doesn't work in reverse. Does anyone have any questions about that? Yes, Michael.
Does the point discrepancy also apply for assignments that are linked through MyLab, Cengage, WebAssign, and other online programs? Changing the point total in the grade book and changing the point total in the actual website are not the same thing?
I would speculate without knowing. I would think that's the same thing because it's, recognizing managed grades is only about the columns and not the actual assessments. Yeah, I've been doing some different testing on that, and that is what from anything I could find that is the case. You're just changing the point value on that column. So yeah, I would go back to the source and fix it at the source.
So if there is the discrepancy, which one wins out? Like, or does one scale to the other, or does one just override the other?
So in those discrepancies, I think the column wins, which is where the errors happen. So that's why we've had to go back through and manually enter in grades, use calculators to fix things when those point values do not match. So it's a really big deal to make sure that they do match. So if you've changed anything, to go back to both sources, make sure that they match to prevent problems like that. Um, so one thing I did find out, when you change a title for an assignment and you do it in course tools and assignments, that information still does not flow down to the grade book. So let's say this assignment here, I do demo, I edit the assignment, and I'm just gonna throw at the end of it. When I change the title here, it will change it over in content. So that part's good. Content being where the students interact with the materials. So the CC is there, but the problem is when we go into manage grades, it's not going to change. So it's a two-step process if that's the case, if you want to change those. I think this was the one. So I can look, it's associated with this assignment here. It does not match. What I typically do is I just do this, copy, and then paste in and save and close. So if you do need to change anything, you can do it from content, you can do it from course tools, but you still have to adjust the manage grades information too. All right. So one of the other things that we've seen is putting release conditions on this, which again, Lisa, is technically possible. You could put a release condition to say that this doesn't show up until a few days after the due date. But again, keeping track of this, you're better off ignoring the release conditions options here and going back to course tools and to the assessments to hide information for the students. There's some different ways to go about that. Like if it's an auto graded, you can decide to release the grades to the students after everyone is done with the exam, if that's something that pertains to you. Yes, Lisa.
All right. You don't actually have to answer this question now, but it just when you said release conditions prompted it to me. Um, I had a student who needed to take a makeup exam, and I set up a separate exam, like a Dropbox, just for her to submit the multiple choice part of it. And I called it whatever, like Madison's exam. And I made it only available to her. But then I actually had other students who could see it and were like, wait, do I need to take Madison's exam? And blah, blah, blah. Is there
Oh,
like, which I didn't think was possible. Like, I thought the release conditions were just for that person, but you don't have to answer that now. I could drop in. I don't know if you're going to have office hours this semester.
yep. So I think so the managed special access, were you using this piece or something else?
Yes, the managed special access.
Okay. Um, it's probably this button here. Only allow only users with special access to see it. So the automatic is allow users with special access to submit out of the time frame, but the second one is only allow the users to see it.
Okay, so in this case, she was taking it like because we always do exams in class now, but
Mm-hmm.
I had allowed her to do it online because of whatever medical thing. And it was outside the availability. So if it's allow only users with special access, I guess as long as the conditions are set up that it's still visible to them, they can still do it.
Yeah, so I selected the second one, and that's where you can still put in your availability dates.
Okay. All right,
Okay.
thanks.
Yep. Yeah, it is kind of squirrely that that's it seems like the second one is probably the more realistic one that's used, but that is how it's set up. All right. Any other questions about the grade book? Anything that you want to see again or know anything more about? All right. Am I going too fast? Am I going at a good pace? Like that's what I'm worried about. It's a lot of information. But
Actually,
I
Carrie, I'm sorry. I do have one more question. And again, like if you don't
sure.
want to talk about this now, it's fine. Um, I always do the weighted grade system. I don't do the points. Um, and what ends up happening is if I want to do like extra credit for something for a student, like I don't ever use that bonus button that you did before. I end up just having to like go in and like I will add a few points to like their final exam. So I'm doing it all manually. Is there a way in a weighted grade system to add points themselves at the end?
Yes. So I think so this is a bonus. All right. So what we did, what to make that happen, I've got participation, which is set to 0. So it's not calculating towards the final grade. And then I take this participation and I set it to bonus. Might have to do one more step. Let me look. It's going to involve this button here, and I just got to check one more thing in here. In the category itself, allow the category to exceed category weight. So now it's going to be 0 plus bonus.
Okay, and that would be the point that I give it. It wouldn't actually be a weighted onto the grade.
So what will happen is because participation is worth nothing, but I allowed it to exceed nothing. So I allowed it to go above nothing. And then this is a bonus. So like if there was worth 3 points here, it's going to be 0 plus 3 points towards the overall grade.
Okay. I have my last question. Um, I use the done not done a lot.
Okay.
Um, and but they get points for it. Um, this wouldn't be the category, but what I want is there a way that I could create my own categories of like done, not done, but like something in the middle. Like either they did it late or they did it totally half-assed, and I don't want to give them full points for it.
Mm,
So like when I go into the select box option, what comes up, like I can see the done, not done possibility. I could see the like I've never really played around with any of those other ones, and I don't want to mess up my grade book, but
right.
it I think under I can't remember if it was Blackboard or Angel, like we did used to be able to create our own thing, but I don't know that we have that now.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of is if you were to use the manual column in the spreadsheet view, and then, offering that feedback in there instead as a different way to address it. Um,
Because like there's no way for me to say Like, okay, so if that thing is 101 points, but I only want to give them 70 points, if it's a done, not done, or complete, incomplete, I can't go in and change the points calculation. Um,
I see
right?
what you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
If it's going to be something more than, you'll probably have to. I can see if there's any other way to divide it up, but off the top of my head, I think you'd have to go back to a points and yeah, if
Okay.
anything else, you could add the feedback to let them know why they didn't get the full amount.
Okay. Thanks.
Because you can do a super check in this. Um, there is a way to give all 100s and then just go back and change the couple that you need to and add the feedback of why they're not doing that, why they didn't get the full amount. So I could play around with it. I've seen it before, but I haven't. Um, I guess I could. Let's see how it works. Yep, that's what it was. So I did a super check, set grades, gave everybody 100. Now, if they don't get 100, I could do 80 and then feedback of what this is a private comment. Anyone who can grade this activity can see this comment. So
Okay.
if that's helpful.
Yeah, I think that is helpful, actually. Thanks.
Okay. All right. I think that's it for the grade book, unless anyone has any other questions about it. I know that's a lot, but hopefully you're getting something out of this. Um, the next piece I wanted to talk about is the course progress. For faculty, they go to course progress and then to class progress. For students, I think it says my progress, or it might say class progress, but one way or other, everybody has the ability to see their progress. And this is where students go to view feedback on their different assessments. Some of it shows up in grades, but not all of it. And that's why we want to send everyone over to class progress, or I think for them, it's my progress. But for you, what happens is when you click on class progress and you click into the first student's name, from this point on, the students, you are seeing what the students see. And so let's say you have a quiz and you wanted to share some feedback with them, but you weren't sure that you set it up properly. What you would want to do, you have to use this left toolbar. This doesn't always share everything, but if you click on quizzes, and I chose one that doesn't have feedback. Let's see if I've got something with feedback in here. Okay, so if I click on this details, this was a submission. Let me go over to my other course. So if I go on to quizzes, of course, I'm choosing stuff that does not have feedback. Okay. The feedback would be in here. It would just, I could, it's so funny that I don't have any in here with feedback, but it would be in here. And this is where the students are clicking. This view is exactly what the students would see. It would say feedback, something along that lines to help them see it. It's really important to know that when the students go to their grades, they may not see that feedback. So that's why it's really not only important to go into their progress, but it's important to go to these sections here so that they can see the feedback that was given to them. There are instructions, I believe, on the Brightspace resources. It might be in the student view, but in one of the toolbars, at least it was there before, there was instructions for the students to view their feedback. So just be aware that that exists. And we have it in multiple different formats. So if you'd like a copy of those instructions, we can do that. But that is how they see it. If you are in student view, if the students are in there and they go to grades, some feedback shows up, some does not. So that's why we say tried and true, go to class progress. It also gives you some information about, like if I want to go over and see how much time this student has been in the course, I could see that kind of information. There's course access, login history, system access. I would not just use this as a guide. Don't use this as a, use it as one of your determinations on whether or not they're active in the class. Don't use it as the only determination. All right, so big thing is, as soon as you click on the first student, your view is the same as yours, as theirs, and you can check to see what the feedback looks like for them. And if we have more time, I can replicate. We're not going to have more time. All right. I guess the other thing that I wanted to show in this course admin, there's a bunch of different things in here. One of them being the import, export, copy components, which is how you copy your course. But one of the things I wanted to show you was that you do have the ability, once you search for your offering, you can select components of it. Now, the only thing that you need to know about selecting components is if you want the gradebook column to come over too, you need to select the component for that too. So let me see if I can, what course am I in right now? I just have a pop-up that's showing I'm just getting into one of my courses. And so I chose what course I want to pull information in from, and I can go to the select components and I can start looking through here for, like, let's say my discussion. I only wanted one of my discussions to come through. This is going to expand it so that I could click on my introduce yourself. And this top one is going to be the forum. The second one is going to be the topic. So I could just copy a single discussion into my course if I wanted to do that. So just remember, you're pulling information in. So if you're in spring 2026, you go back to your fall course, you grab something that didn't get copied over, and you could grab just a single component. If you are using the gradebook, then you would also, you either have to reset up the gradebook if you only copy the discussion, or the other option would be to grab the gradebook column, and this would show up as you go through too. And there are instructions on how to do this, so if you wanted to ever see that, we could show that to you, but just know that that's an option if you haven't used that before. And then the other thing that I wanted to share was the manage dates. If you're not using that every semester, there are two things. You can have your own process of however you want to update your dates in your course. But if nothing else, you should be using this to review what you came up with. You can filter by a specific tool. If you have a lot inside your course, there are, it could get ugly. This list can get ugly. But it shows the due date, the start date, the end date, whether it's visible to students. And this is a great place to identify errors, old dates, things like that. So coming through here can be really helpful to update your course for the next semester. So let's say discussions are due on Tuesdays. I go to specific tools, I go to discussions, I apply the filter, and now I am seeing all of my discussions. Now, the one thing is with discussions is we only want to make these changes at the topic level. The topic is where the students are interacting. The forum, as far as we're concerned, is just a folder to put those topics into. All right, so any of the, if you wanted to update, you can just click on that little line there, and you could update it there. There are some abilities to do a bulk edit update by doing the super check and clicking on that. You can also bulk offset dates. So if last year was the 20th, the first day of class, and today's the 21st, you can edit it so that you can bulk edit to forward by 1 day, so that as a starting point before you take into consideration other things having to do with the calendar, you could use this as a means of saving yourself some steps if you manually did it throughout the content section of your course. Okay, that is all we really have time for. There's definitely a lot more, but hopefully John has a session after this that goes into some of the advanced features too. If you have any questions about anything, or if you found this helpful, definitely interested in knowing that kind of information. If this is something that you'd want to see a part 2 to look at, just to see some of the advanced things that exist inside of Brightspace, but you may not have had time or known to look for. Does anyone have any questions about anything? Oops, I see there's a chat. My performance for students. Thank you. Hi, Michael. You have a question?
When it comes to copying material from class to class, one area that always seems to give me trouble is practice quizzes, because there seems to be a lot of discrepancy between copying something from a previous practice quiz or a previous practice pool for a quiz versus questions from the question library. Should I just always copy everything from the question library and not just copy stuff from practice quizzes or practice pools, because they don't seem to be in sync with each other if I do one but not the other?
So I would have to play around to test on that, but my thing is it does seem like Brightspace wants you to go to the original source. So if the question library is where you have everything, like you can get your question library set up with your quizzes inside of it, and then at the last minute just create the quiz to make that, out of the question library quiz. Does that make sense? Um, so
So
you do
like
have,
make the quiz again after you've got the question library in.
yes. Yep, create your quiz how you want it inside the question library, and then at the last minute, just create your quiz for your semester inside of your course. That might be one. I'd have to see exactly what you're talking about as far as what the best way to go about it, but I'm just thinking about how the rest of Brightspace works. It seems like that might be a safer alternative to it. Doug, do you have any input on that? Um, so I have been helping somebody with the question library in recent weeks, and that is when you're using question libraries, I would try to get everything as perfect as you can there. And then it's just a matter of sharing that information into a quiz that you've created for this semester. That's how I would tackle it. But as far as knowing for sure, I'd have to see exactly what you're talking about to know. Go ahead.
Different question. When it comes to getting the links for my labs and mastering set up, we always have to wait and wait and wait for the email that gives us the all clear that, hey, we've finally got the inclusive access all set up on Brightspace so that you can get your links and your homework assignments and your textbook all synced up and set up for this course. I got tired of waiting this semester, so I started setting up the links first, and then I got the email. And on top of that, some of the emails were giving me textbooks for classes that I wasn't teaching, but that's another story. What what problems might happen as a result of setting up the links before I got the all clear that I was synced up for the textbook? Do I have to set up the links again, delete the old links in the old gradebook columns and set up new ones?
I am not familiar. I don't get involved in that side of things. It depends on if the links maintain, if they're the exact same links. Like if you're pulling from, like if you went into your textbook company and created a course and created your activities, and then it's linked over, there's just unfortunately we can't see most of that type of information, so that's why uh, probably office hours, or it's really not something that I'm qualified to answer on as far as how that comes over. But my thought is if the links are the same, you're going to be in better shape than if they're not. And it also depends on if the links come over when it gets linked again, is it going to generate another gradebook column? And I don't know the answer to that.
If they do generate another gradebook column, do I have to delete all the old ones? Because I know I've had problems with deleting gradebook columns in the gradebook before, like it literally will not let me do it.
Yeah, so you would have to go back to the source and remove it wouldn't be an association because that's inside of Brightspace, but there should be a way on your publisher side of things to unlink it. And then once it's unlinked, then you'll be able to delete the column. So I'd have to,
Like
it's
when they
very
create
specific.
these links, when they create these textbook syncs, do they literally create the course on My Labs and Mastering, WebAssign, the learning management systems for us, and then we have to link everything from there? Because if that is the case, I probably do have to delete all those links and all those gradebook columns and resync again. But is that how it works? I'm not positive exactly how what's happening when they say, okay, you're synced and ready to use inclusive access for this for your Brightspace page.
So synced and using inclusive access, that's something different. That's just saying that if you created a course inside of your publisher's materials and it's now part of inclusive access, it's I think that's more at a broader, I would think, and this is just me, thinking through the what I know about it, that would end up, that's at the higher level. That's just the actual textbook, being linked to inclusive access, not the actual activities. Um, but honestly, that's probably your um, best chance for a good answer is going to be through the publisher.
And does CTS and the bookstore also field questions about this?
So that's the thing. So what happens is you have your Pearson account. We can't access into that. So the only way that anybody could help you would be is if you were sharing your screen and looking through. And that's the thing, is we're not it's just not a side of things that we get to see. So anything that we know about it is just from trying to support faculty along the way. But the people that would know the most to be able to help you through this whole process is definitely going to be the publisher. Okay, we're at 10:57. Get going. Hope you found it useful. If anyone has any questions, always use help@oswego.edu. And that will go, as long as you mention the word Brightspace, it will go to the the DLE team, which is Kathy, Doug, and myself are the ones that typically answer those questions. So feel free to do that. If there's anything that you want more instructions for, you can just ask through help@oswego and we can get those instructions for you. I hope you found it helpful.
Thank you.